Your specific person might not be talking to you right now, but if you are doing this one little thing, then you will be shocked to know that they are obsessed with you. I have seen people successfully change their relationship dynamics within weeks despite being in no contact with their partners. Their specific person totally changes their behavior towards them. Instead of being disinterested, their specific person starts obsessing over them. This happened to a woman when she met a specific person for the first time. She was randomly walking across her college campus, where her SP met her for the first time. They engaged in a small conversation and exchanged their social media handles. Then, their first ever conversation on social media happened. It was boring, and after that, it was evident to her that her specific person was not interested in her. Back then, she had this really terrible self-concept where she assumed herself to be a kind of woman who was not special. Along with this, she had some more assumptions about her that were not in her favor. She felt like she was not the kind of woman who was attractive, and she told all kinds of negative stories. She recognized this pattern within her. This was the block that was keeping her specific person away. She didn't want to be like that anymore. She wanted to be someone who was adored, loved, wanted, and chased. So, she started working on herself. She did this by changing her self-concept. She was a Neville student and loved his teachings. She read somewhere that, change your conception of yourself, and you will automatically change the world in which you live. Do not try to change people. They are only messengers telling you who you are. Revalue yourself, and they will confirm the change. This particular quote from Neville had a very deep impact on her. She knew what she had to do. She started affirming and sticking to a mental diet. During these days, her focus was on herself and her self-concept. It was not directed wholly towards her specific person. Her majority focus, almost 90% of her attention, was on accepting a new concept about herself by affirming that she is someone who is admired, someone who is loved, and someone who is wanted. Day by day, she started getting into the state of being loved, wanted, and adored. She started feeling different, and her assumptions about herself started changing. During these days, only around 10% of the focus was on her specific person. After a week, her specific person returned and started talking to her very differently. Now they exchanged their phone numbers. Her specific person started calling her multiple times a day, as if he couldn't get enough of her. He was way more interested in her and started pampering her to make her feel special. He became obsessed with her because she was doing the one little thing that most people avoid. She was working on her self-concept. It all changed for her because she was consistent in changing her self-concept. Neville's quote proved itself to her. She changed her conception of herself, and her world automatically changed for her. When she changed her concept of herself, her specific person confirmed the change. Like a messenger, he showed her what she was doing internally, and he reflected her state back to her. This is the little thing that I talked about at the beginning of the video. Changing the self-concept is the thing when it comes to manifesting anything. You have to become the kind of person who already has what you want. If you want a specific person to be obsessed with you, then think about what kind of person you have to become. The law is all about being someone who already has what you want. You become this by changing your self-concept, like the women in our example did. It is all about your state of being. Your state becomes your reality. The focus always has to be on yourself. Even in my journey, I have noticed this. When I was new to the law and I was following YouTube channels that were talking about the law of attraction, my focus was entirely on a specific person, and that caused lots of resistance in me. But when I changed my concepts about myself, it was easier for me to focus on specific person affirmations without any resistance. I also had another specific person who talked to me almost every day. We went to cafes almost 4 times a week. It was all good for a few months, but then I felt like she was losing interest in me, she was ignoring me, and I was the one that was chasing her. During this time, I had previous successes with the law and knew exactly what had to be done. So, I stopped calling her or reaching out to her first, and I started affirming my new concept about myself. I used to affirm that I was important, attractive, and loved, and my mental diet was on point. Whenever I was thinking badly about myself, I started noticing my thoughts and changing them. My entire focus was on myself. I only affirmed about my specific person when her thoughts came into my mind. Whenever I had thoughts about her, I used to affirm about her only if those thoughts were negative. If I had a thought that she had found someone else, I used to affirm that I was the only one for her. She has shown me that she likes me. If I had thought that she would probably be hanging out with someone else, then I would have thought that she enjoys my company a lot and that I am always her priority. Like this, for every negative thought that I noticed, I started changing it. This was the only specific person affirmation I had with this girl. Rest, my majority focus was on me, telling myself how awesome I am, how everything always works out in my favor. I had this loving conversation that changed my state of being and my self-concept. After a few days, she reached out to me, and now her behavior had changed. She started reflecting it all back to me, and she was a changed person. This is the secret sauce to manifesting anything. You have to become that person internally first, and then your desire automatically reaches you. Neville's work was wholly dedicated to changing your state of being and who you are. The real you is just awareness, pure consciousness. This consciousness is unconditioned. You condition it by introducing some concepts about yourself. These concepts about yourself keep changing in your life. You are reconditioning your awareness throughout your life. Each concept you hold is a limitation. Now, this is not at all a bad thing. Like if you hold a concept of being sexy, then you are limiting yourself to being sexy and attractive. You would always experience situations where you were sexy and attractive. Being unattractive would not be in your dictionary. Unless you change the limits, unless you recondition yourself to being unattractive. You are probably thinking that no one does this. Why would one change their concept of being an attractive person to an unattractive one? Well, this happens. When people are unaware of the law and are deeply in love with a person, everything feels wonderful. But when things go south and their lover breaks up with them and starts dating another, people start comparing themselves with that third party. They lose all their attractiveness by thinking that the other person is the ultimate attractive person. They start finding flaws within them. They start thinking that they are not enough. This is how they change their concepts about themselves, reconditioning their awareness with something that is unfavorable. Do tell me in the comments if you ever compared yourself with a third party or not. This happens, people do this and change themselves, which makes them an unattractive person, and their lover maintains a distance from them. It is not selfish to love yourself, to take care of yourself, and to prioritize yourself. It is necessary for you to do so. There are some people who complain that no one respects them. Well, this is the case because they are not respecting themselves. This happens when they don't do what they say they will do. They say, I will quit the junk food. This is the last junk meal that I am having. From tomorrow on, I won't have a bite of that pizza. But when tomorrow comes, they order the pizza, and they disrespect their decision to quit junk food. I hope you are getting my point. So, the next time you make a decision, follow it. If you seriously want to manifest anything, then listen to what I am about to tell you. You must follow what I am about to say. Well, understand that manifestation is not some woo-woo stuff. It is not about following some specific techniques, as techniques do not manifest. There are some people who have faith in affirmations, and they are affirming their whole day, and it works for them. But then there are people who do this and hardly see any results. It is not the technique, but the person who is manifesting the outcome. So, I want you to choose a technique that works for you or the technique you think would work for you. I truly believe that guided meditation and following a mental diet work for me the best. Now that you have chosen the technique, the next step for you is to change your state of being. Just think for a moment about what kind of person you would be if you had what you wanted. An answer would come to you. This is your state that you have to maintain. Think about the way this person would view himself and the way he would think about himself. Use your techniques to get into the state of this person and stay there. The longer you stay here, the faster the change happens. Your aim for the next few days is to enter this state and remain there and nothing else. Whatever is in your 3D, just see it as a video that is playing. It does not impact you, it will get over, and you don't have to get attached. You just have to remain in the new state of being. You don't have to bother yourself with your specific person or whether they are changing or not. These next few days are entirely dedicated to you. These are your days. You have to remain in this state. This is the only goal for you. On day 1, you will probably enter the state, but you will move out. At this point, you have to enter that state again. You will move out again. But you have to persist in entering that state and remaining there. Day by day, you will get better with it. Your dominant state will now change every day, and it will change you in a way you won't believe. Then the external reality will start confirming. But remember, you are doing this to change states. Don't live with the expectation that by doing this, you will get that thing. That is not your concern. Your main aim is to be in that state, and within no time you will see the magic. Do tell me what happens and share your successes. If you are struggling to find a technique, then I have a video for you where Neville in his own voice is discussing a very practical technique. Click on the first video that comes to the end of the screen to learn about it.